God has to attain his kingship. 22. Who in the world is God? People say, God is absolute. As the Creator, He is the Holy One, while human beings are profane. This is an incorrect understanding, however. If God is absolute and holy, then that which He created according to His ideal should also be holy. Long ago, during their course in the wilderness, the Israelites worshipped the tabernacle, which contained the holy place and the Holy of Holies. Yet, can you compare the Holy of Holies fashioned by human beings with the Holy of Holies and the holy place that God created as the original nature of unfallen Adam and Eve? What was the tabernacle, composed of the Holy of Holies and the holy place? It was nothing but a transitory symbol that prefigured the substantial being, the original temple and the original Holy of Holies. Its symbolism compounded, expanded and elevated the ideal of the one who was to come. It represented the union of Adam and Eve in their ideal restored form. The symbol in and of itself is not holy, but since people revered the holy place and the Holy of Holies made by fallen human beings, then how much more should we revere Adam and Eve, who were made by the absolutely holy being? God is at the center of the Holy of Holies, which corresponds to the minds of Adam and Eve, and in the holy place, which corresponds to their bodies. Adam was to have become God's body and Eve too was to have become God's body. Adam was to resemble God's masculine nature, and Eve God's feminine nature. The marriage of these two, Adam and Eve, was to have been the ceremony to set up the cosmic kingship, the kingship of love. 23. Adam and Eve are the bodies of God. Adam becomes the king and Eve the queen of the future, with God as their center. They are one in body with God. This is referred to as origin division union. Division occurs from the origin for the sake of love. If you were asked, why did the absolute God divide them? Couldn't He just as easily have done whatever He wanted, without dividing them? What would your answer be? He divided them because, although God created the physical world, He cannot reign over it as an incorporeal being. He therefore needs a form. God's purpose of creation is to acquire a substantial body and substantially become the parent. Who were the substantial beings to realize this purpose? They were Adam and Eve. Had Adam and Eve reached perfection, God would have entered their minds and they would have attained God-centered kingship. 24. Why did God create human beings? God did so in order to manage and lead the physical universe. He intended to do so through Adam and Eve, who were to become the substantial lords of the universe. Because God remains without form, even in the spirit world, He cannot reign directly over the universe. Thus, He created human beings in order to assume a physical form and, through that embodiment, become the king who could govern His descendants, His children born into the world. Then, whose face was meant to be the face of that king? It was Adam's face. Once God created a king, He needed a queen. Eve was meant to be that queen. Together they were to become the ancestors of humankind both on earth and in the spirit world. Hence, if the traditions set up during the lifetime of these parents had extended throughout the world and been bequeathed for thousands of years, there would have been only one kingship, the kingship of the physical world as well as the spirit world. 25. God is incorporeal. Hence, even when you go to the spirit world you will not be able to see Him. God created Adam out of love. Because the created world has form, God also needs form in order to become the Father. When He assumes physical form and becomes the Father, the incorporeal and the corporeal become one. This represents the unity of the cosmos. I am saying that God created Adam and Eve in order to dwell within their bodies. That is why Adam and Eve were to resemble God in His external form. When Adam and Eve were enthroned in heaven, God would have dwelt in their hearts as king and queen and governed the earthly world and the incorporeal world. This is how God's kingdom, the kingdom of love, was to have been established. 26. God is the King of kings and parent of parents, so Adam and Eve were to be the prince and princess of God's true love. But due to the fall, they lost their positions as prince and princess. Further, they lost the right of the eldest son, the right of parents, and the kingship.